finally feeling on the mend.
What? That's going to be a great cold open. What is up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Destination the Show. This is episode 110. Oh, Lord, we need to start again. My name is Jamie Cameron, joined by Jeremy Nygaard and Theo Tollefson. What's up, guys? How are you?
Well, we already know how Theo is. I'm good. I'm 8 days from heading down to Florida myself. And maybe 9, I guess. I don't know. Next Thursday. And so I'm excited for that. That's about all I got, Theo.
Got back from Fort Myers and I've been sick since, so that's been great. So I've technically got spring training fever, if you want to look at it that way. So it's great. It's great.
How was your first? I think this was your first time like covering spring training.
Yeah, it was.
Right? That must have been awesome.
Well, it wasn't great that the first day I'm there, Pablo's pretty much shut down for the season. I'm glad I was there to cover it, but yeah, it was definitely a bad tone to start things off there. But, you know, I tried to talk to as many guys as I could in about 3 days, and you can only get so many guys in that short a span. So we already got some articles out on some of the fringe non-roster invite players, some of the prospects as well. I should have something nice on Culpepper coming out tomorrow, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more as preview as to what's getting published on him.
Nice. Good deal. Very nice. Okay. Well,
how are you? Wait. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm not going to Florida soon.
You are just not.
I know, but I'm not going to Fort Myers, and so this is a bone of contention in my household because someone wanted to go somewhere brand new. It wasn't Fort Myers.
So what's the destination?
It's honestly 40-minute drive. It's a 40-minute drive. It's a 40-minute drive, but the problem is, you know, kids, wife, one rental car. It makes the baseballing more difficult. And upsettingly, and I didn't know this at the time, but it was poor planning on my part. I fly home the day of the spring breakout game.
Oh, yeah.
Poor planning.
Just poor planning on my part. What are you going to do? All right, let's do some logistics. Then we're going to jump into some spring stuff quickly. Then we'll jump back into prospect list. So ways that you can support the show. You can like and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform of choice. I can't speak today. You can find all of our stuff after the fact on YouTube. The handle there is at Destination the Show. If you want to send us questions, comments, abuse, whatever. But you can find us on Twitter at DTS_pod1, Blue Sky at Destination the Show, or send us an email at destinationtheshow@gmail.com. Real quick, before we jump into prospects 11 through 20, this is kind of part 2 of our top 20 dueling list, and I'm guessing we're going to get into much more divergence in the second part of the list. You get 90 seconds to talk about something interesting from spring training so far, whether that is like interesting looking player in a new role, breakout performance you're predicting. Just curious to round up some of the threads before we jump back into the list. What you guys got?
Who's going first?
You can go first, Jeremy.
Okay, so real quick, Connor Prelip picked up his first spring training win. Took him forever to get his first win in baseball, so he picked that up, and he's still healthy, so that's a win. Secondly, not entirely Twins related, but Twins related enough. I've been watching the games on the MLB app, right? MLB TV, yep. And every time it goes to commercial, it like loads for a second every other second. Anybody else having these issues?
No.
So I've watched 3 games on there, and no matter what, so it was the Twins, the Gophers, and then the Twins the next day, and then the Twins at the Braves thing. So every time it goes to commercial, like every 3 seconds, it pauses and spins for a second. So by the time that the commercial's actually done, we're already like 30 seconds into the inning, and it's super annoying. So I'm hoping that glitch on my device gets worked out anyway. But yeah, it's nice to be able to turn on the phone and watch a baseball game. And even if they, lose or don't play well, it doesn't really matter yet. So that's my 90 seconds.
Love it. Theo, what you got?
Yeah, so I mentioned talked to Culpepper for a couple minutes when I was down there. Great kid. He has a lot to say. I'd say definitely a lot more than Connor Prelip. He's a very short and quick to the point. Prelip is. But Culpepper did actually get some time working out with some of his soon to be major league teammates this offseason. He was working out with Royce Lewis, Taj Bradley, and then Marco Raya was also in the group. And they pretty much were a small collective alongside the Saints strength and conditioning coach Stephen Hawkins. So it was nice to kind of like pick up on that, how Culpepper was kind of feeding off Royce for better or worse in terms of like his strengths, what he's doing well. And Royce kind of described it as more he was just trying to keep the high energy going as always, just to keep things going well. And I think what Culpepper said on his last month and a half of the season where things kind of slowed down for him, he just didn't have the endurance he was hoping for, which is kind of to be expected for all these guys who are in their first full season in pro ball. And that's exactly what happened. So he's just hopeful that the endurance can really keep itself going through August and September, whether he's somehow still in the minors at that point, but most likely with the Twins at that point. And we'll definitely see a lot more of what he's got in the tank, I think, this upcoming year.
Beautiful. Love it. As speculated, I think, in this parish several times that he was just kind of worn down at the end of last season. So it's good to hear. Also, lots of fun, notable prospect performances in spring training. Emmanuel Rodriguez, Jeremy, can I interest you in a couple of early spring training home runs? No? You're muted. So pleading the fifth, clearly embarrassed.
You can certainly, I had a kid running down the field, so I'm muted. Yeah, you can tell me all about him and his couple home runs right now before he injures his thumb again.
Fair. I'm actually straying from Twin spring training to the world of college baseball because college baseball is back, and I want to give it a little bit of some flowers before we jump into the prospect list. Just really fun. We're through 2 weekends of play. For you draft nerds, Justin LeBron through 8 games, 5 home runs, a 137 WRC plus. Very nice. Rock Chalowski through 7 games, 6 home runs, a 234 WRC plus. He looks every part of the number 1 overall pick. How about being 134% better than your average college counterpart? AJ Gracia also had a 3 home run game, 162 WRC plus. Not great quality of competition yet, but nice to see some of the favorites for the top of the first round after really good starts. Looking forward to tracking that. Okay. Back to the prospect list. We're going to dig into numbers 11 through 20. Now, we have talked about some of these guys, so I just want to quickly call out a list of prospects we're not going to dig deep on, even if you hear their names brought up in one of these positions. We're not going to dig into Riley Quick. We're not going to dig into Gabby Gonzalez, and we're not going to dig much into Charlie Soto, because all of those guys were brought up and kind of discussed at length in the first portion of this a couple of weeks back. So we'll follow the same format. We'll go starting at number 11 all the way through number 20. We'll each kind of name our guys, and then we'll walk through some strengths, areas of opportunity, recap their 2025 performance, all of that good stuff. So why don't we go ahead, Jeremy.
We've talked about 10 guys, but by my count, I have my number 10. Theo has his number 10, and you have your number 9 and your number 10 left to go.
Oh, I do? Cool.
Yeah, so I think we are starting at number 10 instead.
So
or your number 9.
We've talked about 10 guys, right?
Yeah.
But we should start with Jamie's number 9.
Got it. My number 9 is, this is terrible timing. Terrible timing. My number 9 is Andrew Morris, who got absolutely shelved in like 0.1 innings of work today. I simply gave Morris a nod over a couple of other guys just based on seniority more than anything else, right? He's had multiple seasons of AAA experience at this point. He's added a ton of velocity, smaller frame guy, but he's been up to 98. And he's knocking on the doorstep, today's performance notwithstanding. I think he's one of the first of the next batch of guys up who should start in the rotation at St. Paul in 2026. I think the questions with Morris remain, are you going to generate enough swing and miss in the strike zone to be able to get major league hitters out? If we look at his strike rate, and he's always had like excellent control, but his strikeout rate at AAA last year was 22.4%. That is just a little bit worrisome to me. And I think that's the big remaining question. It's almost a little bit of a he has 5 pitches and they're all fine, but none of them are really, really great. So those are the questions he has to answer. Where did you guys have Morris on your respective lists?
I
had
had
him
him
at
13.
And I had him 15 because to me he's a
Woo!
reliever.
Hmm.
He's a reliever, and 15. And I had him. I mean, in with my next group of pitchers, I'm not the guy. I'm not as high on him as you are, obviously. And I thought 15 felt decent. How about you, Theo?
I think 13 is also decent because, I mean, it's a coin flip whether he's going to be a starter or reliever, but I think he's still got the upside to be a starter. And I did talk to him in camp, and the thing he really wanted to work on this offseason after seeing Yamamoto's performance in the postseason was kind of like emulating his splitter. So that's something he's been tinkering with. And I think, I mean, I didn't watch his performance today, but I don't know if the baseball savant showed him throwing a splitter, and that could have been part of the bad results. But Yamamoto and Trey Savage were the two guys he just kept talking up and just watching this postseason and trying to emulate parts of their game so he can be a lot more effective with his pitch mix this upcoming season. I still think he's obviously going to be a part of the Saints rotation opening day. I mean, he's likely to be pushed to more of a reliever role, I'd say, in the second half of the season. We'll see how things play out. But as we know, pitcher arms are very tender and very easy to be injured, as Pablo Lopez, I mean, God bless him for making 12 years before he needs to get a second Tommy John surgery, because that's a rarity in itself. But, you know, their arms are very fragile and they're going to need the depth. And I think he's kind of just higher up on who they have in terms of starting pitchers at AAA. They're willing to keep in the rotation right now. I mean, I think he's definitely higher up than Connor Prelip in terms of just staying a starter long term.
Right on. Okay. So that's Andrew Morris. Excited to keep tabs on him. My number 10 guy, I'm not sure if we talked about him last week, so you guys can remind me. My number 10 is Kendry Rojas, left-handed pitcher acquired in the much maligned Louis Varland trade. Rojas, unlike Morris, looked incredible in his first start. Pretty much through 3 pitches, was up to 97. Struck out, I want to say, 3 Braves over a couple of innings, including like
Riley and Acuna, I believe.
Yeah, super legit. So did we talk much about Rojas last week, guys?
No.
Let's dig on him then. Where do you guys have him ranked? And then we'll touch on his 2025 performance a little bit.
I had him at 10 as well.
We all had him at 10.
You had him at 10 too? Mm-hmm. So interestingly enough, we didn't bring him up here until he's the 12th guy, but composite wise, he averages 10. He would be our 10th prospect by composite. Right, so I know you like to do that with your draft rankings, Jamie. So I just did that with our rankings. But I think that, you know, what he did against the Braves still starting lineup looked the part of a big league pitcher. Totally. And he's just he's loose and he's athletic, and the ball does things that it doesn't always do for Twins pitchers, right? And I think there's a little bit of, and obviously this is judging off of one game, but I think the ball sometimes does things that he doesn't even anticipate, right? Where it moves more. You know, I don't know if you remember watching Sam Deduno pitch back in the day for the Twins, but
sure,
like he had some nasty stuff, but it was like it wasn't good enough. There was no command to anything. Like, people are uncomfortable in the box because the ball might just hit you square in the ribs. And so I think Rojas has a little bit of that yet now, where the ball's going to move sometimes even more than he wants it to. And that can be a great thing. That can also lead to some ugly runs too. So what we got to see was really good, Rojas. But I think the ceiling is super high, and dudes like that can transition into being really, really good relievers if they don't work out in the rotation. So I think that it's a very, very encouraging start for the trade acquisition.
Yeah, 100% agree. I gotta say, I liked Rojas coming out of that trade. Like, he was one of the names I liked most from the Twins trade deadline haul, and I found the reaction to his 27 admittedly very poor AAA innings to be a little bit annoying. Like, let's give this guy a little bit of time to adjust and adapt. The fact of the matter is, he had only pitched 5 innings or 1 appearance at AAA for Toronto before he was traded over. I think he talked about having a little bit of trouble adjusting to the ball at AAA, which whatever. But his arsenal looks super legit. Like his changeup in that Brave start was really, really impressive. And yeah, he looked extremely crisp. So assume he would also be part of that Saints rotation to start the year. Getting to St. Paul early days feels like it's going to be important. That roster should be absolutely stacked at the beginning of 2026. So if you can bear the cold, should be fun.
And one of the things I heard about Rojas in camp, I was not expecting to hear. So, if the Blue Jays didn't trade him, he was possibly going to be on the same fast track as Savage and could have been pitching in the postseason for the Blue Jays because they were that high believers in his strikeout stuff, and the Twins obviously are too. So that was interesting to hear that him getting to AAA kind of set back the time frame the Blue Jays had internally for him. And kind of adjusted where he needs to be, tempering expectations. But I mean, hearing that from a source while I was in camp was definitely interesting because it's just I saw a lot of how he pitched in St. Paul, and it's just very hard to believe how he could have played out against major league hitters potentially if the Blue Jays did not pull the trigger on trying to get Louis Varland.
Yeah, super excited for Rojas in 2026. Let's move on and hear about you guys. Number 11 prospects. I think you've already heard mine. Mine is Riley Quick, just by virtue of the fact that he hasn't thrown professional pitch yet. Who you guys got at 11?
And mine was Soto, so we're on Theo.
Hendry Mendez.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about Hendry Mendez. He's super interesting. Jeremy, where do you have Mendez?
I have Mendez at 17.
Ooh. Okay, I have Mendez at 13, so I'm kind of splitting the difference. So Theo, because you have him placed the highest, why don't you kick us off a little bit with some of your thoughts on Mendez, and then we'll weave some of his 2025 numbers into the conversation.
Yeah, I think for any player who gets traded from their organization from the first time, the one they've been going up, and you kind of expect a period where after the trade they're going to slump a bit, but he didn't do that at all. He still maintained a much higher walk rate than strikeout rate, 19% with the win surge and a 14.8 strikeout rate. So I really am high on him because of how he was able to maintain himself. And again, this is still Double-A. I think it is very likely he's Arizona Fall League to get more reps at first base because I think that's going to be his defensive home long term, and him and Sabato are probably going to be the two guys flipping back and forth at that position. I think his outfield days are definitely limited, especially when you look at who's on that Saints roster for opening day. When you got Walker Jenkins, Emmanuel Rodriguez, Gabby Gonzalez, Gonzalez might be a little closer to him defensively, but he's definitely going to be staying in the outfield much longer. So yeah, I really liked how he was able to maintain himself. We'll see what the next hurdles are for him in AAA, if he can adjust well to pitching there, or if, he starts to get some of those weaknesses in his swing exposed.
Yeah. So Mendez is so fascinating. I'm going to pull some of his 2025 numbers because we're entering a portion of the prospect list where they're either prospects who are incredibly toolsy or guys who have one really good tool. And he definitely falls into the latter category. Like, he can hit, absolutely no question about that. And he doesn't really do anything else well. Like, he is not good in the outfield. It's rough. So completely agree with that assessment, Theo, about his defense. I guess I'm wondering it's going to be like, how does the power develop? It did look a little better, and like he described, like something clicked for me when I moved over in the middle of the season. But his numbers across Double-A for both the Phillies and the Twins in 2025, he hit 299, 399, 439, a 138 WRC plus. He walked 13.6% of the time, struck out 13.2% of the time. 11 home runs. Let's see here, 20. Not a ton of additional extra base power beyond that. And the one other thing I'd call out with Mendez, and then Jeremy, I want to grab your thoughts too, is him and Culpepper share one issue, which is like swing steepness leading to a really high ground ball rate that I think is really dangerous. Mendez's ground ball rate in Wichita was 57%, just under 58%, which is absurdly high. So I do wonder if there are some potential swing adjustments to make to get away from that a little bit, because that's living in dangerous territory when you get to the upper levels of the minors. But the hit tool is legit and super interesting, and certainly a good get for 2 months of Harrison Bader. Jeremy, what do you think of Mendez?
Yeah, I've said a number of times here, like one of the first things I look at with prospects is their strikeout to walk ratio. And he walked 62 times last year, struck out 65 times, was 52 and 52 the year before. So I think there's the ability to progress and continue to progress because I really like that in a prospect. However, all of the things that you said, right? Hits the ball on the ground a ton, doesn't hit a lot of home runs, is a left-handing corner outfielder that doesn't defend real well, probably pushes him to first base. But then do we see a lot of him in the Arizona Fall League in first base? I don't think we actually did. So he's just one of a whole bunch of similar type dudes and has a ceiling that is much lower than all of those guys. So for me, it's like, how does he fit? Because he's right at that same age, in that same age group with a much lesser ceiling. I would love if he just became the first baseman. But at the same time, I'm like, if Kyler Fedko, who is older, could be a first baseman and do so much more, why wouldn't that happen? So there's certainly things I like about him. I just, when it gets to this point in the list for me, like I'm looking at upside 9 times out of 10. And for me, there's just not a ton there. I think he's going to be a solid player. I don't know that he's ever a regular. And that's a limiting thing for me because there's just not that upside.
Right on. Okay, let's move on to our number 12s. Jeremy, who you got at 12?
Ooh, this is a fun one. So my number 12, and it's perfect because I'm an upside guy. So the guy that, in my opinion, probably has the most upside of anybody outside of the first couple guys we talked about, and that's Quentin Young.
How about you, Theo? Who's your 12?
I had Ryan Gallagher.
Ooh, super cool. Okay. My number 12 is Gabriel Gonzalez. We've talked about him a bit, so we don't need to dig into him. Jeremy, why don't you talk a little bit about Young, and then we'll move on to Gallagher before we hit 13.
So Quentin Young, drafted on the first night by the Twins and not really their typical Grand Slam swing type prospect. So nephew of Delman and Dimitri Young is, I don't even know how tall he is right now, like 6'6".
6'6". Yeah.
6'6", and is playing shortstop. He's listed at 6'6", 225, listed as a shortstop. Batted 118 in 5 games with no home runs. Struck out 9 times. Like, there's a lot of potential to be an extreme miss here, but the tools and the upside is extraordinary. So there's power there if we can unlock that. He's got the ability to throw it real well. He's an average runner. But if he never hits, he'll never make it to Double-A. But when you have the major league bloodlines a little bit, and at 6'6", like, you're not going to play shortstop, but if you have the arm, you can play right field, you can play third base. Like, right now, it's more clay than anything else,
Totally.
unformed. But the upside is extremely high. I think, a year from now, probably won't see him in this range. You'll either see him drop because we saw what we've seen, or it's going to be like, oh, this guy's going to be a future top 100 guy, and he's definitely in the top 10 in the organization. So a lot of extreme here, but a lot of extreme to really like.
Yeah. A couple of extra nuggets on Quentin Young. One, it does sound like the Twins were extremely surprised he was on the board when they picked in the second round at 54. Maybe a little surprising that he signed right at slot, $1.76 million. He was an LSU commit. And then just to add a couple of numbers to those tools that you called out, Jeremy, 115.4 miles per hour exit velocity of the draft combine. I mean, as a 18-year-old, that's, baseball melting power. And then up to 98 as a pitcher, off the mound. So obviously the arm is going to play anywhere you choose for it to play. Shortstop, third base, right field. I don't know, from the bleachers. Like he could throw it from anywhere. So I agree. I think like when he made his debut, my thing was like I just want him to get hold of one baseball before the end of the season, and it didn't happen. But that is going to be very fun at Fort Myers to, which is like a difficult place to hit for power in. But I think he will make it not look like that whenever he gets hold of one. So, Theo, where'd you have Quentin Young?
I had him 15, more so because he was limited in where he was playing, because he had a very small sample size in his pro ball debut this last, we'll call it fall. So, I mean, obviously the upside's there. I think third base is probably going to be more likely his home on the infield long term compared to shortstop, just with his size and frame. Yeah, I think it'd be great if he can definitely bring better memories to the young name in a Twins uniform. I think a lot of people would be happy with that. So, I mean, he's an excited kid. I will definitely be keeping a close eye on him more than anyone else on Fort Myers roster this upcoming season. And I think we could probably all agree with that, maybe aside from Riley Quick. But, I mean, they got a good group of talent that they're going to have down there in Fort Myers for most of the season. So he's going to be one of the best hitters to watch.
Love it. Theo, why don't we pivot to your number 12 guy, who was Ryan Gallagher?
Did you have Quentin Young ranked, Jamie?
I did. Oh, I'm sorry. See, look, this is where we get
You're
to
out of
be
order,
a mess,
man.
and I need you guys to keep me on track. I had Quentin Young at 16, so back end of the top 20, and again, that's just representative of like I'm going to be cautious with someone with where it's like very much tools over skills at the moment until we see what that looks like at low A. He should have a nice long runway, no rush, whole season pretty much at low A, and see how he does. So, you know, I think success would look like if he plays any games at Cedar Rapids at the end of the year, that would be a huge win. Wouldn't necessarily expect that, but that'd be great. All right, Theo, your number 12 guy was Ryan Gallagher. Talk to us a little bit about why you slotted him in there.
Well, he's kind of the counterpart to Mendez, where I talked about earlier, you know, when you're being traded from the org that drafted and has developed you up to this point, you might struggle. And he did when he came to Wichita. But I was really impressed with his strikeout to walk numbers before the trade. I think that was the standout. And, you know, obviously those things kind of trickled down. And when he was pitching in the Texas League, the hitters definitely got the better of him because he had, a 5.5 ERA. The rest of the way. He did kind of keep the walk rate low. I think it was exactly the same as it was prior to the trade, so that was good, even in a small sample size of 37 2/3 innings. Obviously, he's going to be starting this season in Wichita. He's definitely got a chance to be a part of the Saints rotation as the season progresses and more of these guys kind of move their way up to the majors. I would be shocked if he's not in St. Paul as a starter or reliever. Obviously, the velocity is just not quite there as it is for some other guys, and he's going to have to just be a little more creative with how he, you know, keeps his command of the strike zone and gets a lot more strikeouts going, because I think he taps out at like 95, maybe 96 on occasion. So not the most overpowering stuff, but I think, you know, he's a good run-of-the-mill back end of the rotation guy right now, and obviously small sample size post-trade, I'm not going to hold that against him, and that's why I'm still keeping him, you know, a little higher than other people probably are at this point.
Yep, makes good sense. Jeremy, where'd you have Gallagher if you had him?
Yeah, I had him at 16 for all the same reasons that Theo had him. Super impressed with the strikeout to walk rate, and like when you're a big durable dude and you throw 121 innings in your pro debut, like the floor is pretty high. Now I don't think the ceiling is super high. But if he can be a number 4, number 5 starter that continues to just get better, like there's a huge need for that, and kind of fits in with this next wave. And pitching's kind of weird, right? Because an arm can blow up at any time. But I think like kind of at the tail end of this, where we would maybe debate right now a lot less on him that he would be a bullpen type, like he could fit into that depth chart of starters and say, you know, in the next couple of years, he could be the guy that ends your rotation. I think there's more high ceiling guys right now, but you need to balance that with dependable, durable Nick Blackburn types. And I think that's what you have here.
Yeah, I think he'll be a little bit better than Blackburn.
Well, Nick Blackburn was the number one prospect for the Twins one year. So
That's very
Nick Bla-
telling.
Nick Blackburn was rocking like a 5.5 strikeouts per 9 in the majors, which is just outrageous.
Dude,
He is one of my favorite random stats ever, as he had the exact same win-loss record for back-to-back seasons in 08, 09, 11, and 11. I think just because he had that, and I was collecting those cards pretty frequently back in those days, that just stuck with me. Obviously,
Nice.
stats that don't really matter in today's game, but that's just a stupid stat I love to pull out.
he fell all the way off the next year to 10 and 12 too. It was
I know. He couldn't be consistent.
But what he did is he threw 193 innings, 205 innings, 161 innings, 148 innings. Yeah, he never struck out 100 dudes, but took the ball on decent Twins teams every 5 days for 4 straight years. And I think that's the type of guy that will find his way into a top 20 list.
For sure. I think I don't have anything extra on Gallagher. I ranked him 15. I do think he is a candidate that's potentially primed to shoot up, especially if the Twins can get a tune out of any additional velo and tweaks to his arsenal, which I would put some money on them doing a good job of. I think the value comp is like Andrew Morris, in my opinion, right? It's like your like 75th, 80th percentile outcome is like a number 4 or 5 type guy who pitches 160, 170 innings in the majors, and that will be great. So a good flyer for a not good version of Willie Castro. Okay, has anyone not shared their number 13 guy? Mine was Mendez.
So my 13, and I hate doing this because I know I'm not as high on him as I feel like I'm not as high on him as you are, especially Jamie. But on the heels of Quentin Young being number 12, I have the other very high ceiling, low floor, similar type-ish prospect in Brandon Winokur. So Brandon Winokur was my number 13.
Right on. Theo, where did you have Winokur?
16.
16. I have him at 14. So we're all pretty well clustered with him. Jeremy, let me recap his numbers, and then you can talk a little bit about why you've got him there, what what you're hoping to see in 2026 and so on. He's so interesting, man. So he's going, this will be his age 21 season, and it's his 3rd full pro season. 122 games at high A last year, and he kind of held his own. 226, 304, 388, and 98 WRC plus. So a league average bat. I would point out that, like, if we adjust, like, that's as a 20-year-old in high A, right? 8.3% walk rate, 24% strikeout rate, just about hanging on there. 17 home runs, 26 steals in 30 attempts. On top of the 17 home runs, 20 doubles and 3 triples. So plenty of tools. Played shortstop, played center field. Insane raw power, certainly. Jeremy, what's your 2026 outlook for Brandon Winokur?
Yeah, so kind of just a year ahead of Young, and I think the reality is we probably see him move up after playing a full season at Cedar Rapids. I just wonder how, does the strikeout rate continue to be super high? We've seen the months where he looks like a different prospect, but he's going to hit for power. Where does he eventually settle in defensively? Because another 6'6" guy playing shortstop, it doesn't really make sense. But I think all of the same things are true about Winokur that they were for Young. Like, what happens? Does he turn the corner and hit 30 bombs? Like, he will move up on lists if he continues to. What's his career average? 239. Yeah, if he hits 239, I think he'll stay steady. If he hits sub 200 at Wichita, well, that's something else. So I just think, again, the range of outcomes here is very extreme, but there is an outcome where he is a really, really, really good baseball player, and I think that's exciting. And having these types of prospects in the system is a fun thing to have, because they're lottery tickets, and yeah, they're not going to hit all the time, but if they hit once, man, you are in huge luck.
Yeah, you're looking good for sure. I mean, I agree with that analogy. I think Winokur just is Quentin Young 2 years further down the line, having done like solidly well at both those first 2 levels. I do think Wichita will be a really interesting test. I kind of feel it'd be goofy to say it's a make it or break it year, but you get the sense that Double A is always seen as a significant step up. This should be a tough year. He is going to answer a lot of questions or not. Okay, so that's everyone's 13 prospects covered. 14 for me was Winokur. How about for you guys? Who'd you have at 14?
I had Kyle DeBarge.
Hey, me too.
All right. So we're pretty even on him.
All right, guys. I had DeBarge, and then you guys can go to work. I have DeBarge at 20. So just about squeaked on. Talk to me about Kyle DeBarge. What do you think?
Well, his speed definitely impressed us. 66 stolen bases, and one of only 3 players in the Midwest League with over 50 stolen bases who spent the whole season there. So that's definitely something to take notice of for an organization that hasn't really developed any speedsters since Chuck Knobloch, which is a very long time. But, he didn't hit that well with a 237 at average, over 543 plate appearances. He did drive in some runs. Power's kind of still not there. So there are things to work on that definitely will elevate him if he can improve upon them. But as long as he still has a speed and he's still getting everyday reps defensively, then I'm pretty confident that he's looking like a good utility infielder down the road.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. The speed is impressive. The drop off and home runs. I mean, he was kind of a dead pull power or dead pull guy that came into power in his last year in college. And I think the easy comparison there to make was like when Brian Dozier turned the corner and became that guy. Came up as a shortstop at Southern Miss, wasn't great, and then kind of reinvented himself as a power hitting second baseman. DeBarge, I think, offers a little more in the speed category, and I don't think is quite as big as Dozier. But if he develops any semblance of power and can stick it short, like there you have something. Strikes out quite a bit. Didn't hit for really anything. I mean, it's 23 doubles, but when you have that sort of speed, anything that's a down the line should be a double, right? So I need to see a little bit more, but I do think that there's some hope there, and he's 22 years old, and probably going to spend the year at Double A. Again, it's one of those kind of crossroad years for him, but if you have a guy that can steal second successfully often, like there's a role for those guys, even if that's their only role. And the Twins don't have really any of that type of player besides DeBarge. So I like him in the the bottom quarter of the top 20, and we'll see what happens.
Yep. I just want to draw a parallel with DeBarge, who had a big power breakout his junior year in college, to Merrick Houston, who also had a solid power breakout his junior year in college that has not translated to pro ball. That's not a slight on either one. I just think it's potentially backing up that the power is a little bit fake. Agree with everything you guys said. I think the profile here is maybe like a super utility, solid, guy who you can plug into a bunch of different positions around the infield, probably not shortstop. I wonder if there's a timing issue with his swing a little bit last year. In his first full season, he had a 53% ground ball rate, pretty high. He popped up in 30%, almost 30% of his at-bats last year, which is a tremendous jump from what it was at last year, or the year before, 17.6% infield fly ball percentage. So that's a wondering for me is make in the midst of some swing adjustments, if that was a challenge for him. But solid org guy, one of those super utility types. DeBarge, yeah. 2026 at Double A will be interesting. I fear that he may not hit enough, but I would love to be wrong. Let's move on. Let's talk about, what are we up to here, guys? Now, number 15. 15 for me was Gallagher, who we've already talked about. How about for y'all?
15 for me was Morris, who we talked about.
Yeah, okay. 15 was Quentin Young for me, so we can move on to 16.
All right, here we go. 16, I had Young, already discussed.
I had Gallagher, already discussed.
And Winokur, we already discussed.
Look at us. Now we're flying. All right, moving on to 17. I got a new name to throw in the mix. Khadim Diaw is at 17 for me.
I had him at 18.
Okay.
Didn't have him ranked.
How dare you?
I know.
Who do you have at 17, Theo?
It's my infamous one.
Oh, Charlie.
One
Soto.
everyone cannot stop giving me crap about. There was someone at spring training who was like, "Come on, man, why do you got Charlie Soto at 17?" I'm like, "Hey, man, he just got hurt. That's all. He's got a low floor and a high ceiling." So
I had
that.
Mendez at 17, so we can talk on Diaw.
Cool. I love that we've sufficiently spread the word of Theo being a hater on Charlie Soto that people are starting to give him nonsense about it in public.
I will
That's
hear
great.
it at the ballpark all summer.
Love it. Let's talk about Khadim Diaw real quick. So 22 years old, weirdly listed as catcher / outfielder, and spent much of that in center field, actually. My fun Khadim Diaw fact would be the first player of Senegalese descent ever to play in Major League Baseball if he makes it. Drafted as a third rounder in 2024 out of Loyola Marymount. Unfortunately, has lost a lot of time due to injuries so far in his short minor league career, but spent time at Cedar Rapids in 2025. And it was 39 games, so not a huge sample, but hit very well. 294, 446, 420, a 155 WRC plus. Really nice approach here. Walks 12.1% of the time, 17% strikeout rate. Not a ton of power, but very much a good approach, high on base type with a really solid hit tool. I think very raw behind the plate, falls into this category of the Twins drafting athletes who do some catching. But he looks decent in the outfield too, good range, fast, all the things. So he just strikes me as someone who has the type of skill set that should allow him to kind of traverse the middle of the minor leagues decently well. And would imagine he gets some more time at Cedar Rapids and then moves up to Wichita at some point this year. Jeremy, what you got on Diaw? What do you think of him as a prospect?
And that's kind of the same deal here. Just hasn't played enough to really know what he is. Yeah. Hasn't hit for any semblance of power, but's had injuries that you could understand that kind of sap that power. And despite all that, last year struck out 27 times, walked 19 times. So it's not an overwhelming, he's going to go a ton. Does he play behind the plate? Who knows? There's enough there that make you wonder, but also enough there that we haven't seen. The fact that he's one of, for me at least, 3 catchers in my top 20 or catchers says something in an organization where there just hasn't been a whole lot of that. So, let's see if he's at Cedar Rapids and how much Tait potentially is at Cedar Rapids and how they share that job and where else they play and how well he hits. And if he can stay healthy, has the potential to jump. I think there's kind of a wide range on how people view him. And I think that right now it can still be a win for the organization.
Nice. Okay, so he was your 18, Jeremy. He was my 17. So let's move on to Theo. Who was your number 18 guy?
CJ Culpepper.
Oh, good deal. Did you have him ranked anywhere, Jeremy?
I did not. He was one of my 4 guys that were considered, 5 guys that were considered for 20. So he would have been in my top 25, but not in my top 20.
Right on. Number 19 for me. So we snuck on. Theo, why don't you give us some thoughts on CJ Culpepper?
I think he's definitely going to be a reliever long term. He's got the high upside stuff with his velocity and pitches, but the injuries is kind of the same thing with Connor Prelip, not to the same extreme, but we don't know what exactly he had this last year that limited him to only 59 1/3 innings and just had very short starts when he was making starts. So, I mean, the stuff's there. There's no question. I do believe he's going to start the season in the starting rotation once again for Wichita, but I think it's going to be very quickly where he could be on that pitch every 4 days for 4 innings plan by May, June, just to help transition that role into the bullpen a little bit easier. So, the walk rate was a little too high for my liking with what he's got, since he's got 12.4% walk rate in last year. But, he still kept runners from getting across the plate. So there's that. But I think there's just so much we just don't know what he's going to have because of his injury history.
Totally. There was a time when I thought CJ Culpepper was one of the most likely Twins prospects to be traded, because he just isn't really the type of profile they normally go for in draft, like a lot of East-West type stuff, and seemed like he struggled to harness it. But he's really missed so much time with injuries now. What, 58.1 innings in 2024, 54.1 innings in 2025. You just hope to see him back and healthy for 2026. Jeremy, you got any thoughts on Culpepper? I feel like he's been a little bit forgotten, honestly, in general in the system.
Yeah, and that's why pitchers fall off the list, right? We saw it with Soto.
Yep.
Right. But no, we see it with pitchers. If you can't stay healthy and do it, because I agree with you completely. CJ Culpepper was the name. It was a while ago where it's you ask about other people and the response was, yeah, well, no, what about CJ Culpepper? And that was when it was okay, this is a guy we got to talk about. And then the injuries happen, and now it's just kind of out of sight, out of mind. So I would love for him to fire back up the list, but at this point, it's been too much and too long.
Yep. Okay. I think we're moving on to 19 now.
Yep.
Yeah, I can share my 19.
Go for it.
Enrique Jimenez is my 19. Ooh. So I can talk all about him if you'd like me to.
Please do so.
Nobody else has him in their top 20?
Nope.
Okay, so
I messed up real quick, guys. Did I say that I ranked Kyle DeBarge? Because I did not.
Yeah, you said 20.
Yeah.
No, I have Jimenez at 20 and DeBarge at 22. So I need some striking from the official record. I'm so sorry. Yes, I do have Jimenez at 20. Theo shaking his head at me. I'm losing all credibility.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jeremy, sorry to cut you off. Go ahead on Enrique Jimenez.
So Jimenez was acquired in the Paddock trade. I think that was the first move the Twins made. And at first, I remember actually I was driving home from work. You and I are exchanging text messages because you hate the trade, essentially, Jamie. If you need to be reminded of this.
Thank you.
So, but what turned out to be was kind of what do we know about this guy? Doesn't hit a whole lot. He's young, so I think he just turned 20. But he shows up. He's a switch hitting catcher, small, and then for Fort Myers playing his in low A for the first time, and in 23 games hits 6 bombs and walks 23 times and strikes out 24 times. And it's if this is the guy that you acquired, he's a top 20 prospect. He hadn't really done much of that before. So is that the guy you got, or is it some aberration? But at this point, looks the part of a top 20 prospect in the organization.
Yeah, man. Just that was really fun, actually, because he was just incandescent for 20 games at Fort Myers, which is not an easy place to hit home runs. But as you say, his line, 269, 431, 551, managed a 172 WRC plus. Obviously, very easy to get carried away with a then 19-year-old. But lots of things to wonder about there, right? Switch hitter, that's fun. Mm-hmm. He's obviously playing a catcher. Like any catcher, I think at that level, you're going to have a ton of questions. And he might just fizzle in 20. We might never talk about Enrique Jimenez again in 2026. That would be really disappointing. But that is a possibility. But that was legit one of the best org debuts I can remember of a random, no disrespect intended, but nobody from a trade coming over and absolutely setting the world on fire. So that was super fun. What would you do with him, Jeremy, if you're in 2026? Send him back to Fort Myers for another 40, 50 games?
Yeah, he was playing rookie ball for the Tigers when they traded him. So 23 games at low A. Plus, if Tait and Diaw are at Cedar Rapids, I could see him playing out the whole season at Fort Myers. I would like to think that one of those guys at Fort Myers will play his way up to, at Cedar Rapids will play his way up to AA, and then you move Jimenez for the second half of the year. But those three kind of in tandem there, hopefully they all stay healthy and can force an issue.
Good deal. Are we missing anyone's 20th person?
Yeah, mine.
We skipped 19.
You haven't shared your 19? You better share your 19.
James Ellwanger.
Ooh.
Yes. I'm high on him. I think he's, again, kind of that same mold as Gallagher or Morris. He's got the ceiling of a back-end rotation guy on a very strong team. Obviously hasn't debuted yet, so there's not really too much to evaluate with what he's got. But, what he was able to do at Dallas Baptist, I liked. And I think there's a lot of I see a good performance that could come out in Fort Myers this year. Obviously, I think he's going to be taking his time. Again, he's one of those many guys who's going to be at Fort Myers where if he can finish the season in Cedar Rapids, that's going to be, A+ for progress there.
Here's my bold statement about James Ellwanger. Do I want to make this?
Yes, You do. You have to.
Yeah, you've already said it.
Maybe the best stuff in the system. Hey,
Theo, clip that.
Does it mean that he can throw it over the plate enough to be a successful big league pitcher? Who knows? Because he walked 13.5% of hitters in his draft eligible season, but he also struck out 33%. He's up to 99 with really diabolical stuff. Doesn't mean he'll be successful, but it's legit loud arm talent. Okay. We're missing somebody's 20, and I also have a guy who I wanted to talk about who I haven't. So I don't know.
I got both one guy lost our 20.
Who you got, Jeremy?
So I have Marco Raya because the last time I did these rankings, I had Marco Raya at number 9, and I just couldn't stand to see him fall off. There's still potential there, probably as a relief pitcher. Maybe it'll be real fun. Maybe this will be the last time that I have Marco Raya in my top 20, but I believe enough that I had to keep him on the list.
Hey, he's looked good in the early going at spring.
Yeah, he got up to 96, I want to say, in his first appearance. So, and then I had Billy Amick at number 20. I still like what he was able to do despite his injuries this past year.
I'm off the Billy Amick train, Theo. You're going to have to convince me on that one, brother.
So far off that train.
Well, again, what he was able to do while he was healthy, especially a hot start to the season. He hit 342, 475 on base percentage, and then the 15.2 walk rate. But the power wasn't there until July. No home runs until July 2nd. So, yeah, there's a lot of good reasons to be off on him. But I think, with what he was able to do at the University in Tennessee in 2024, I think there's still some of that there. He's going to be sticking around in Cedar Rapids probably for all year. Maybe if, he turns closer to his ceiling, he'll be able to make it to Wichita. But, he's just going to be an interesting case to watch in Cedar Rapids for most of the year.
I'm ready for a Billy Amick redemption arc. If he indeed has that in 2026, I'm here for it. We will champion your take on the podcast. Jeremy, did I share my 18? Because I'm looking at my 18 thinking that I haven't spoken about him.
No, you have not.
Okay, last but not least, Adrian Bohorquez. Got to get him in the top 20. I want to put him up there as one of the guys I'm most excited to see throw this year. I think undersized, just about to turn 21 years old, made it up to Cedar Rapids at the end of last year. Right-handed pitcher, listed at 6'1", 190. I do think that's about where he lives and sits. But he had a massive velo jump at the end of last year, such that the Cedar Rapids pitching coach crew started calling him the bazooka because he got his fastball all the way up to 98, and it wasn't close to that at that point. It was max 96. So just calling out his numbers when he got to Cedar Rapids, 23 innings, struck out 10.8 just under 11 per 9, and the strike throwing improved significantly. It went from 4.6 walks per 9 to 2.35. It's a good fastball and then a couple of interesting breaking pitches. So a 297 FIP at Cedar Rapids as a 20-year-old is interesting to me. So that three-headed monster of Bohorquez and then Dason Hill and Charlie Soto in the rotation for Cedar Rapids ought to be fun if you want a baseball road trip. That's one that would be close to the top of my list.
There you have
All
it.
right, guys. There you have it. Top 20. Got a little messy there in the middle. But thank you guys for sticking around for a couple of weeks while we finish our list. We will be back shortly. A couple of things just to preview on the docket. We're going to do kind of a top 20/Twins system mailbag in the next week or two. We also have a guest coming on as we start to turn our attention to the 2026 MLB draft. So that's going to be coming up in the next month or so too. Thank you guys so much for your support of the show. We really appreciate it, and we'll catch you guys again soon. Take it easy.